Good morning, my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani and I warmly welcome all of you to StudyIQ. I hope you all are doing good. Sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. Tiptoe if you must, but take the step. And you will find this opportunity every single day. The only thing is that you have to keep your eyes and ears open for it. With this, dear friends, we have many important articles on table today. Most important one is this one written by Rakesh Sood, who was a former diplomat. We do find articles written by Rakesh Sood many a times in the Hindu newspaper, and they are very informative, they are very good, and they provide you this conceptual clarity as well, because it is written by a diplomat, and apart from that he's a good writer as well. So we will analyze this India-Nepal bilateral relationship article in detail. There are many things to learn from this one. Then you have this, a register by the people. This is about our forest policy and the way things are going on. One department is saying that things are improving, the other one is saying that they are not. So here you have this two different reports, or you can say two different stands. But anyways, we will talk about one important thing here, how we can change or how we can improve and conserve our forest, and tribal community and people living in forest can play a very important role. So we'll talk about it, and then moving on to another two editorials that we have here. This is about a fresh deadline. It is about Cauvery. This one is about 15 years later. It is about Iraq, this ongoing war. It's been 15 years plus, and this war is still, this ghost is still haunting this country of Iraq. Then you have this article on Ministry of Mortality. Now, Ministry of Mortality is been termed to this name is given to Information and Broadcasting Ministry because of its recent stand on this fake news and things like that. We'll discuss this thing in detail as well. So, and then here you have an interview, but I'll leave it on you guys if you want to go through it. Moving on, dear friends, if you want to download the PDF of today's lecture, then check out my Facebook page or Twitter. Yesterday, I believe there was a bit of issue. I got a message from a dear aspirant, and I realized, so I retweeted this link on the Twitter handle. I hope you have got it. Just in case, if you find anytime this sort of technicality, then feel free to pass me a message, right? And with this, dear friends, StudyIQ provides pen drive and tablet courses for various different exams. Sales are going to start tomorrow, so make sure you are making the most out of the pen drive and tablet courses. This sales is a good way for you to get a huge discount. And let me tell you one thing, that this pen drive and tablet courses are designed by the best faculties of our country. They will help you, and they have helped many other aspirants like you. So make sure you check out StudyIQ.com. Now let's start with very important article without wasting any further time. A new beginning with Nepal. Now, yesterday we were talking about this thing in this editorial. Remember, I told you that so far, means this tradition has been there, and I was not sure, I told you yesterday, but it was back in 2008. Now let me tell you what this tradition is all about if you are new to this discussion. Means it is a long-standing tradition that Nepali prime ministers make Delhi the first foreign port of call. That means as soon as they are elected, their first foreign tour will be in our country, in India, not in China or any other country. But back in 2008, this thing was, or this, we find only one exception, and this was taken by this Pushpa Kamal Dahal. He's also known as Prachand. In 2008, he visited China first, and since right after that, couple of months after his visit, his coalition government collapsed, and he had to resign. And again, then we had another prime minister, and then we again it was back to normal. This tradition was upheld. So this is how it goes when it comes to India and Nepal. This indicates our strong people-to-people contact and strong bilateral relationship. This particular item is very important because it is part of your neighborhood, right? India's neighborhood is a part of your syllabus. Very important topic in itself. And yesterday I told you about this people-to-people contact. Remember Roti Beti and this army relationship that we have with Nepal. And in 2015-16, we saw this blockade that was done by India, and since then we have seen this new law in the bilateral relationship. Now enough preparation has been done by both the sides. It looks like we have played our cards very right. And if we go back in the history of Nepal, this political history of Nepal, then it's been 3 decades now, right? 3 decades ago, this whole new constitution, means this political transition thing started, and at that point of time Nepal got its new constitution in 1990, and since then it was, means basically this were the seeds, you can say, of this fruit that Nepal will pluck now. It's been 30 years. We have seen this political turmoil. It was a monarchy, right? Nepal used to have this 250-year plus monarchy system, and 30 years ago they talked about this democracy. After that, we saw this Maoist insurgency, and sadly Maoist insurgency has claimed 15,000 plus lives in Nepal. Nepal is a tiny country, and 15,000 lives is a big figure for a country like Nepal. Finally, they have got this constitution, new constitution, in 2015, but then they were going through and deciding all these important bits and pieces like local body elections and parliament and structure of parliament and other things. And in this 30 years or this 27 years, we have seen 25 prime ministers in Nepal, 25 different prime ministers. Now, many a times you find this one prime minister taking over many a times, but there again you have 25 different times. So here it itself indicates this figure that instability, political instability was there in Nepal, but things have improved, you can say, because if we see this new prime minister, Mr. Oli, then he is having a very comfortable position, or he is a bit strong at present, because if you see this local body elections that took place in 2017, same with this national parliament, or this top level democracy, the parliament that we have, they call it national parliament, right? Sansad basically. And then you have the 7 provincial state assemblies, legislative assemblies, counterpart of legislative assemblies of our country. So in all these 3 different levels, Mr. Oli's party has done very well. He is in a very strong position at present, and he also indicated this Nepal-Tibet border thing as well. We know that Nepal is playing its card very right now. We talked about that this thing yesterday, that it wants to project itself not as a landlocked country, but as a land-linked country. It wants to see itself as a land-linked country. Enough with this landlocked terminology. The other thing is China is having deep pockets, and China will, of course, inject this money and the strength that China has in infrastructure development. The good thing about China is that they have this ability to complete any given project on time, and this is a biggest hurdle when it comes to India and Nepal's relationship, or this is part of India's way of working as well. We are laggers in this thing. We are not able to complete our projects on time, and then these projects, they become very expensive. And we have some examples when it comes to India-Nepal project. You have this integrated check post of Raksol-Birgunj. This is the only one that is completed at present, but then as well, this was basically inaugurated last week when Prime Minister was here. But the thing is, it took ages for us to complete this one, and there are other integrated check posts. Some of them we are just talking about it. Some of them you see a bit of work has just started, but still it will take ages for us. And it's not just India, right? It is, means the blame goes equally to both Nepal and India. Now 2018, when we are interacting now with Nepal, we are talking about equality, we are talking about mutual trust, respect and benefit, because we know it very well now that if we will politically, if we interfere in Nepal, if we are trying to take stand for any one particular party in Nepal, then this is going to throw or backfire. We will see a backfire of this stand, and Nepal will completely go in the basket of China. And we don't want to see this thing, because China is already basically the shadow of China is expanding in South Asia and other parts of the world as well. Now, difficult issues, we haven't seen any sort of discussion at this time. When I say difficult issue, it's about 1950s treaty. We need to refresh it. Gurkha regiments, many perks and payments and other things, recruitment figures and other things are part of this Gurkha regiments, or this issue that we have between both these countries. 2016 demonetization. This Nepal Rashtra Bank is having huge lot of this money, this Indian rupees. They call it Bharat rupees over there in Nepal. So they have this huge quantity of money, but they don't know what to do about it. We are discussing with Nepal Rashtra Bank, but here again you have to be very careful because of this open border. There are high chances that there are many people who might have injected this money in this Nepal Rashtra Bank. Then you have this Pancheshwar long pending hydel project. Yesterday I told you about this hydel capacity of, or hydel potential, not capacity but hydel potential of Nepal. I have a very important figure for you guys today. And SAARC, for a very long period of time, you know, this headquarters are in Nepal, Kathmandu, but SAARC is dead since 2016 because of this Uri attack. So all these important difficult issues were not discussed, but I believe that we are taking our own time. We are looking for a right moment so that we can have a detailed chat with each other on all these important issues. At present, I believe that we are giving enough time to each other to settle down. The other thing is this, both prime ministers also witnessed the groundbreaking ceremony of Motihari-Amlekhgunj cross-border petroleum products pipeline. This is a good thing, but again 2004 was the time where we signed this MOU, and it took this many years for us to do this thing. The other thing is this is the capacity or potential of Nepal, 80,000 megawatt. 80,000 megawatt. Make sure you note this thing down. That hydel potential of Nepal is 80,000 megawatt, but at present it is just producing 700 megawatt. Can you imagine? Just 700 megawatt is been produced by Nepal. And here we have talked and promised to set up more hydel capacity project, but still, as you know, these are the problems, right? Project not completing projects on time, not finishing. We were the first one to give or declare that this much money will be given to Nepal post earthquake, and many people, many NGOs, many religious organizations were working in Nepal to help all these victims of this massive earthquake that took place in Nepal. But still we see this thing that the money, we have given the money, but still we don't see this whole thing has been completed. There are many people who are still living in tents and their situation is very, very bad. So project completion is something that we have to do, or else we will lose this trust of the people of Nepal, right? And when China is there, you have to be a bit quick in whatever you are doing. The other thing is very interesting figures in terms of geography. 60% of Ganga waters come from Nepal's river. These are the rivers of Nepal. Make sure you locate them. Sarda, Ghaghar. Don't confuse this thing with a river in Rajasthan, Ghaghra. It is Ghaghar. It is not Ghaghar. It is Ghaghar. Remember this thing. Easily you can get confused with this thing. Rapti, Gandak, Bagmati, Kamla, Kosi and Mechi. And 80% of this flows takes place in the monsoon. So we need to have a proper water management, both for irrigation and power generation, as well as this disaster management as well. So these are the important bits and pieces or important things between India and Nepal. I believe we will find some more articles on India and Nepal in near future, but this one is a good one. I believe that most of the points are covered in today's discussion and yesterday's editorial discussion. Moving on to another item. This is about a register by the people. Now, Indian State of Forest Report 2017 says that there is a marginal increase in forest in our country. Now, National Forest Policy of 2018 talks about three important points. It talks about ways, or basically the mission is to increase this forest cover. The second is to involve this local community who have this traditional knowledge in forest management and conservation. And the third one is creating plantations as well, so that at the same time we have to keep this fine balance of environment and our development requirement. So plantations are basically commercial areas. You can say commercial forests where you plant one particular type of tea, like say for example rubber plantation. So you find only rubber trees over a given area, and then you have this, you cut them off, or you extract this natural resources, and then you look after them as well. So it's more for commercial purpose, right? Creating plantations for industrial use. Now if we go through this state of forest report, then what it is saying, that there is a rise of 0.21% in 2017 from 2015, 0.21%. And it also says that some areas had become very dense forest. Sounds very good. But when we go through ministry's report, then we find that ministry is saying that India has lost or legally diverted. Legally diverted basically means that you are giving permission to chop off a forest or use it for industrial or for other purpose. We have been talking about this thing, isn't it? I told you about this compensatory afforestation fund. It's been a week, I guess. Within a week we have talked about this. Anyways, so this legally diverted or lost forest is amounting to 36,575 hectares, and we have given permission to some 1,419 development projects. So you can see this paradox here, that one report is saying that there is an increase, the other one is saying that means this much amount is being chopped off or been diverted, or we have lost it. So it's basically that you are trying to conserve forest here, but the amount or the quantity of forest that we are losing is a bit higher than what you are. So this is not sustainable at all. The other thing is, when it comes to this 0.21% figure, there are environmentalists and experts who are not or who are skeptical about this 0.21%. They are saying that this will take ages. It takes a bit of long time. It doesn't mean within 2 years you cannot find this sort of increase of 0.21%. It takes a bit more time. So it's a bit difficult for environmentalists to digest this figure of this report. Now there is a Biological Diversity Act of 2002. And it basically talks about this setting up of this Biodiversity Management Committee. And the interesting thing about this Biodiversity Management Committee is that it talks about this People's Biodiversity Registry, where you will note down and register all the members of tribal community who are living in forest or nearby forest area. Even if they are living in non-classified forest, they will be taken on board. Their name and things will be taken on board, and the main reason is that you are creating this database, and you can utilize them, their expertise and their traditional knowledge in conservation of forest and other things can be utilized. And this is a very good thing. If we do this thing, then this is going to work definitely, because these people are the grassroots people, right? And it would be more sort of bottom-up approach if we do this thing. And it is also talking about documenting all this plants, food sources, wildlife, medicine sources, etc. in this biodiversity area. Now the thing is, when it comes to, say for example, practical things, when it comes to taking steps, we find that we do not see funds being given to this grassroots people. We also see that in different policies and in different statements, you will find this thing that yes, we are going to take this tribal people on board, we are going to take this local community on board, but hardly we look after them. And this is something that is coming from again colonial hangover. When you see the forest department, you will find that recently, just a couple of it was based in 2017 when we changed this grass with northeastern states. This bamboo was considered as a tree, right? And this was during this colonial time. Since then, it was just in 2017 we realized that we have transferred it into grass category so that local people can use it. If it falls under this tree category, people cannot use it. So you can see how how much colonial hangover is still there on us when it comes to conservation of forest. And our forest department again behaves more like this, you know, this it has this colonial hangover. The ways and things, the way they do or execute things is still in the same way. The other thing is, for a very long period of time, we also see this thing. We know about traditional knowledge. We know that this people can help us, but then as well, this tribal people are looked with suspicion that you know, that they will destroy forest, or these resources are basically property of the state or the government and not of these people who are living here for generations and generations. But we need to change this thing. And when it comes to conservation of our forest, we have to apply this decentralization. We need to have this decentralization approach. Only then we would be able to save our forests. And you know, forests are associated with biodiversity and carbon and climate change as well. And apart from that, we will also lose this wealth of this culture, the way of life of this forest people, if we lose forest. Moving on to editorials, a fresh deadline. This is about Cauvery dispute. Now, it is a matter of shame that the central government basically failed to come out with a solution. It missed its deadline of 29th March. On 3rd, it was asked by the Supreme Court to prove that you have done something about it, and central government was not having anything to present. So basically, nothing is done by central government so far as this Cauvery dispute is concerned. This recent, I'm talking about this recent thing. Earlier on, of course, central government played an important role, but it was supposed to come out with this mechanism and sort out all these problems, this Cauvery dispute, because Supreme Court has already passed its verdict on this thing. Now, one of the reasons why central government is being or shying away from this thing or evading this whole legal obligation to create a mechanism is because Karnataka elections are going to take place in May. And what happens is that Karnataka is a party of this Cauvery dispute, and if this your new implementation mechanism, if it is even a bit negative, even if it is sending a wrong signal to the people of Karnataka, then you may lose election. So when it comes to this electoral consideration and your duty, the BJP government has chosen to stick with its electoral consideration rather than its duty. Then you have this targeting this IPL rationale. There are people out there who are targeting IPL, right? It is very irrational. What will you get from disturbing this cricket matches and things like that? Of course, you will get this national attention, but this is not going to be fair for the people of the whole country, as well as this is basically what you are doing is you are targeting soft items, isn't it? It is a soft target to go there and to disturb this IPL matches and things like that if they are played in Chennai. And if this sort of things are done, then these matches will not be held in Chennai, and this will create loss of livelihood for many people, right? For many poor people as well who supply many different items. Whenever you have this sort of events, there are thousands and thousands of people who make living out of it. But the blame goes to center, right, when it comes to this duty, or when it comes to choosing between duty or electoral consideration. It is a matter of shame that the central government has decided to stick with its electoral consideration or its upcoming Karnataka election. Moving on to another editorial. This image, I believe, is very famous. I'm sure you might have figured out this is Saddam Hussein. It is Iraq. You can also see US troops here. You can see local people. They are happy about this thing. It was a matter. It was basically a cherish. They cherished this thing. It was a big celebration that Saddam was uprooted from Iraq. This took place in 9th April, right? And it's been what, 15 years ago this whole thing took place, and it is the right time for us to go through and to analyze whether this war that is going on in Iraq, or the war that was basically started by George W. Bush, where do we stand now? When this this statute was taken down at that point of time, George W. Bush said that this mission is accomplished in Iraq. Things are fine, sorted out, but still we know that this ghost, right, this destructive war is still going on. It's been 15 years. Thousands and thousands of people have died. Millions have been uprooted. They have to live their normal life, and they are living in camps and other places. So this is a very sad scenario for the people, and in terms of humanity as well, this is a big disaster. If you go back in the history of this whole process, then we find that George W. Bush basically, see, this CIA, sometimes we call them the best agencies in the world, intelligence agencies. Then you have this MI6, that is this James Bond agency. They provided this misleading intelligence information. As per their information, they said that there are two things that are going on. First is that Saddam Hussein is having weapons of mass destruction, and the second thing is that he is having a very good relationship with Al-Qaeda. We are talking about 2003 time, right? This took place in 2003, post this 9/11. So this agencies provided this sort of information to their respective governments, and together they decided that something should be done about it. Basically, USA took a lead, and USA tried to convince a United Nations Security Council that there should be an attack on Iraq. But UN, clearly, the Security Council approved to fail, or this, there was no, basically this Security Council said no to this Bush administration, that we should not attack, we should give some more time and things like that. But the Bush or USA took a unilateral action, and it was joined by UK and other countries. Now later on they came to know about this thing, and this was a big disaster or debacle for Tony Blair, who was the Prime Minister of UK at that point of time. It turned out that Saddam was not having this, or he was not possessing these weapons. At the same time, as far as this Al-Qaeda is concerned, Al-Qaeda was not there in Iraq, but after that, after this war, this war basically provided a breeding ground for this Al-Qaeda to recruit some people, from youngsters from this country here. Now we are trying to sort out things, but it's been 15 years, and even USA is tired too. It has injected a huge amount of money, it has lost many troops as well, but it has also displaced millions and millions of Iraqis too. And this indicates, now one more thing before I conclude this thing, that after Al-Qaeda we also saw this Islamic State of Iraq and Syria taking place, right? ISIS was born because of this thing, and sentiments, they are exploiting the sentiments of people. And we should also understand this thing, that it was a big mistake of USA and UK as well, and they are responsible for this situation of Iraq. But this indicates that the hidden message is grave failure of international system. When USA wants to take a sort of unilateral action, there are no countries who can stop them. And in future we may also see this sort of things done by China. Moving on to another item, this is about Ministry of Mortality, INB Ministry, right? Information and Broadcasting Ministry. Again, this is a ministry that is also having this colonial touch, a flavor of colonial or British. Basically, it was set up by British government, and it used to work as an eye and ears of the British government. At the same time, it was also working for spreading this propaganda and controlling this content that was published during that point of time. You are well aware about this thing, that newspapers played a very important role in creating awareness or this mass movement in the people of our country. And Gandhiji and other people, they used to publish these newspapers and other items. So this INB ministry used to control it. Now recently we saw this whole fake news thing, right? And Smriti Irani's ministry came out with this decision that if a journalist is found to be even if it is not done for, or even if it is not done purposefully, if fake news is been catered, then your license, you may lose your license. But PMO, Prime Minister's Office, intervened, and this is a good thing. This decision or this guideline is abolished or taken back. You cannot force media, because many a times, see, basically you get information from different sources, and you have to go through it. You have this whole mechanism of, you have this editorial team that will go through the news items and they will make sure that things are all right. But many a times you may have this errors, and based on one error you cannot revoke license of this journalist. So it's good that this decision has been rolled out by Prime Minister's office, and this is the reason why it gets this name, this INB ministry, as Ministry of Mortality. Now moving on to news item here, we have this brother of this UP MLA. Very sad that representatives of people are indulging, or they are associated with this gang rape cases, gang rape of a minor girl, and also this custodial death has took place. So very sad. I feel very much like it's a pain to discuss this sort of things, right? And I don't know when this sort of things will change. These people are behaving like they own us. And then you have this plea in Supreme Court for CBI probe. Now for CBI as well, you know, it is a caged parrot. It's not as clean, but there are good officers out there. Let's hope that they will provide a good thing. But we don't want to see this thing going on for ages and ages, for years and years. It should be quick, it should be fast. Internal e-way bills from April 15, good thing. And now let's hope that this network does not face any sort of glitches, technical problems, and you have this intrastate transport. It will start with this Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Kerala, Telangana, and hopefully in near future the whole India will be covered. Plantation workers, silent deadly foes are bit snake bites, right? Snake bites are bit problem here, and you find this snake, two names here. Just to remember that you find both this species in our country, hump-nosed pit viper, and then you find this Russell viper. And moving on to another item, this is about new norms for global projects. Central Vigilance Commission has came out with new norms for global projects that are funded by World Bank, IMF, and Asian Development Bank. Then you have this picture of Syria. Trump has said that he will take a quick action if this means it is alleged that chemical weapons were used here. It has taken life of many people. So Trump has said that his administration will take a quick action, and Damascus has invited this OPCW. OPCW stands for this Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, to come and analyze, and government is saying that they have not used any sort of chemical weapons. Moving on to another item, this is about defense export that is going to take place. Make sure you are following this item. It's a big thing. We want to make in India. We want to become self-reliant in defense when it comes to defense products, and this is going to be the central theme of this Defense Export 2018. All eyes are on this IRNSS-1I, and 18 people have died in Maharashtra. Again, a big road accident. That's everything in today's discussion. These are your answers. These are your two new questions. I'll see you all soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. Jai Hind.